Oh, I didn't think it would go. I thought I'd scheduled this. Obviously not. Because I'm an idiot. That's nuts. I honestly thought I'd scheduled this. Not very bright, am I? Right, automatic translation. Okay, turn that off. Hello, who's here? It's a ladies only live, so be a bit careful. Oh, I don't even know if I can see chat filter or messages. Anyway, I thought I was going to give myself 5 minutes. Right, I'm just going to mute for a couple of seconds. So obviously I'm having one of those nights again, where I've had a turn where I thought I was going to sleep, but I didn't. I didn't go to sleep. I tried and it wasn't working. And it wasn't working for various reasons, but if you've seen the title, you'll understand what I'm going to be talking about. And I'll give a verbal disclaimer because, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying or thinking, well, I'm rather judgmental. Far from it. Today, what I'm going to, it's purely thoughts from my head, commentary on a particular public figure. The media perception, his identity. He's reinvented himself. I will not be talking about anything regarding legalities or any allegations of any, because I'm not interested. But I am, obviously, I have a vested interest and a personal interest around Sikhism and, I don't know, religious symbols. And what I'll say with total respect for any community and any faith. So just, if you are going to come into comments, keep it respectful, keep it civil. I'm not responsible for what you say. You're responsible for your opinion. You sound like a dude. Well, you might be getting off on that, mate. Hi. I normally turn comments off because I'm easily distracted. And if you think you can get off on a bird sounding like a dude, then fill your boots, mate. Yeah, I'm not even going to bother blocking or anything. So this topic around a public figure, namely Raj Kundra, the number one guy has a very interesting username, Gooning Gooby. Yeah. Oh, let's just remove him. I'll remove him for now. Thanks for pointing that out. I will also give a disclaimer about how I do lives. I'm not normally very good with comments because then I lose my flow. You're more than welcome to stay in comments, but just manage your expectations if you can about, how often I'm going to read them, with all due respect. So, but this topic, it has been bouncing around in my head quite recently because a couple of his podcasts came into my feed, and my initial thought was, oh wow, he really suits that the star. And I was like, because not everyone suits the star, but he genuinely, that was my genuine first impression was, oh wow, he suits the star. Sajdiya Pagonu Pagni the star, है ना? And so I've got all these thoughts bouncing around in my head. And thoda sa podcast suna, bits and pieces of 3 or 4 podcasts came into my feed, and I listened to them off and on. And one of the thoughts I had was, is this how he's navigating public scrutiny, which was quite intense? And I'm not big on Bollywood. Main nani ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਦਿੰਦੀ or give them that much importance because they already have inflated egos, no? But it did bring me to a point where I was thinking, how they navigate that shame. And I was thinking, has he reinvented himself? Because he did fall. It was a massive fall from grace. I didn't think too much of him before he came into negative public scrutiny. Obviously had heard of him because his wife was in the British spotlight when she won Big Brother under questionable circumstances, I might add, because not everybody believed that it was all intentional racism, but hey ho, it won her the you can call it a competition, I don't, but anyway, so that's how she came to the forefront of I suppose the British spotlight, and that's where he came into the spotlight. But anyway, again, that's their personal life. I'm not going to be doing or giving any commentary on that, that's for sure. But anyway, going back to, these are my thoughts about how he tried to reinvent himself, because his public life, in a way, I suppose it collapsed. I mean, he was in the headlines. Everyone was watching to see what will happen. And again, for context, I'm saying what happens when someone does fall from grace in the manner that he did. And some people in that situation, they go completely off grid. They just disappear. Some hire heavy duty crisis PR teams, but he didn't. What he did was just, I didn't understand it, because every now and then you would see something on social media. It was, in terms of visuals, it was unique. one could argue that it was some form of psychological evolution of this man, but I don't know. But I'll say again, and I'll make one thing very clear right off the bat. I am not going to be dissecting legalities or get bogged down in the whole specifics of his controversy, because that doesn't interest me. But I am really fascinated now with how his public identity has shifted, if that makes sense. And it shifted since he came out of his incarceration, although that was quite temporary as well. But still, it was an incarceration, and no doubt it had a massive impact on his reputation. So he was high profile in the world of what they call Bollywood. And even that term Bollywood, I just find it ridiculous. And he went from just being a normal guy in this normal Bollywood, I don't know, dham jam, chamak damak, whatever they want to call it. And he reappeared after his incarceration. He was like walking the streets of wherever he lives with like metallic masks and helmets, sometimes helmets. And now he's appearing as the star-wearing Sikh. It's like, you know, has he embraced Sikhism? And I'm human, right? So my brain, you know, to some degree, yes, it's cynical. And I am asking, is it someone, has he found spiritual solace because he hit rock bottom? Is that spiritual solace, is it genuine? Or, and I'm going to say this, and it's my opinion, and it's a thought, it's not an allegation, it's a thought. Has he adopted a sacred tradition, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, because it's a far more effective shield? So let's talk about the literal shield, you know, the mask. If we go back to the aftermath of his release from, you know, whatever situation he was in, and he came back into that public space, it was surreal, right? And again, I'll say I'm not a follower of Bollywood, but every now and then things do come into our feed. And I don't know how long he kept this whole surreal metallic mask thing going on, but it was there to see every time he stepped outside. It was like chrome visors, metallic face guards, mirror finished helmets. So in a literal sense, those masks, it was almost like a physical safety, what can we call it, a safety feature? I don't know. He'd basically like built a wall between his face and the paps, right? It's almost like saying, yeah, you can follow me and you can stalk me, but you can't, I'm not going to give you the pleasure of my displeasure at you, like flashing those lenses in my face. And in a way, maybe it helped him regain or reclaim control over an image that he felt he had lost. Again, it's a question mark. I don't know. But if we think about that whole, you know, the social energy of that chrome helmet, my first thought when I first saw it was like, wow, that's a bit defensive, but also aggressive. And that might sound a little bit slight paradox, but it does. It draws that intense curiosity, doesn't it? While keeping everyone at arm's length, it shields your face. But there could be absolutely no compassion or warmth for anyone who may have not bought into whatever crap he was being accused of. I just think, and maybe it was intentional. He did it to alienate himself even like further, not just from the paps, but from the public. But then, and I don't know how long ago this was, how many years, because time is moving so quickly at the moment. What we feel happened a year ago actually happened a few years ago. And I was just thinking of the whole Will Smith and the Chris Rock slap, and I thought it was about 6 months ago, a year ago. As it happens, it's coming up to 4 years. So, in context, I don't know when whatever happened with Mr. Kundra, when it happened, but I do remember those metallic masks. And then there's been a pivot. It's weird. It's a sacred pivot, by the way. Yeah, so it's gone from metal shields to something really soft, honourable, inviting. It's not aggressive in the least. I don't know how, when it happened, but yeah, he adorned the star, and it looks like that he's embraced Sikhi. That's what I'm seeing visually. And I don't know if it was, some people are saying, because I have had this conversation with friends, I've thought long and hard about having this conversation online, but I had these discussions with friends who are far more into Bollywood than I ever would be. And apparently he was making a film in Punjab, and the role was of a Sardar, and he basically, he had to grow out his beard and he had to wear his dastar. And then he didn't look back from there. He just, I've got to be really careful about how I word this, but apparently from there on in, he embraced Sikhism. Apparently he's adopted its principles, and he's kept his head covered with the star ever since, which, I think for context, he does come from a Hindu Punjabi background. And yeah, of course, there's a shared cultural heritage that we have in that region. But Sikhism is its own distinct, it's a deeply spiritual faith, isn't it? So the star, remember I've spoken about this topic many times before, but the context was different. The star for us is, it isn't just an item of clothing, it's a sacred symbol of dignity, integrity, moral discipline, seva. So you can appreciate why I'm so conflicted within myself about the why. Hi Lara, how are you? I'm good, thank you. So when a person does go through like a catastrophic crisis, which his obviously was, right, and does spend time where his liberties have been snatched from him, I think it's fairly normal to look for what we could call solid ground. You know, people, when anyone hits a real low point and has nowhere to turn, like literally, especially if there's incarceration involved, you've only got four walls and some bars. So what do people typically do? They turn to faith. You know, your own world, your real world, it's crumbled, it's collapsed. And maybe it is a spiritual foundation. Maybe it's the only thing that can give true solace. And maybe it's redemption, I don't know. And sometimes it's moments like that when you've absolutely hit the floor, you've hit rock bottom. That's when we're stripped away of our ego. And that goes for most people. Maybe you did find genuine comfort and structure in Sikh teachings. I don't know. It's a humbling and human experience, isn't it? So, but why am I questioning the intent? So it could be that I'm just conflicted within myself. You know, and the question, I don't know, even when I was discussing it with my friends, it was really uncomfortable because the contrast between those masks and the sacred turban. And I'll be honest, one of my friends was pretty disgusted with what I had to say, because she's fully bought into this Bollywood culture, and my words were, was it an upgraded safety feature? You know, wearing the star or appropriating Sikhi, is it a more sophisticated safety feature? You know, so if we think about those metal masks, people are going to be skeptical. And yeah, no doubt people mocked him. And there's just that curiosity of how did he even think that up? But basically, if you look at how he presented him there, and I'm only saying that from the images I've seen and any sort of crap that's come on social media, it's basically saying, oh, whoa, I'm hiding. You cannot penetrate my emotions, because of course you can't see them, because when we don't speak, it's normally our expressions that give away how we're feeling. But at the start, on the other hand, it commands immediate respect and warmth. So honestly, the contrast, I was just like, wow, he's gone from one extreme to the other. So in the public eye, right, wearing sacred dastar, it completely changes the dynamic. It could potentially soften how people see you, perceive you, approach you. It it just creates one of those moral buffers, doesn't it? It's easier for people and social media and the media to poke fun at a public figure in a robot helmet. But it's more difficult to poke fun and stalk and criticize someone who stood there in what one could say is sacred attire, you know, because he has now, like I said, I listened to a few podcasts and he's actually talking about prayer and faith and would I have ever have listened to him speak either with those stupid masks or without it? Absolutely not. Those podcasts or interviews, whatever you want to call them, they came into my feed. I see the star, and suddenly I'm slightly interested. I'm slightly intrigued. And I'm thinking, wow, my first thought was, oh, Sajadaya. And then I wanted to hear what he said. And sometimes it's the thumbnails and the titles that can grab your attention. But in this case, it wasn't. In this case, it was a man who sat there. And he was extremely gentle in his mannerism as well when he was speaking. So maybe that kept me hooked. But it didn't stop the question forming in my head. Is it religious appropriation? Is this? And that's what made me listen to the podcast, because I wanted to know if this, obviously I'm a Sikh, so I'm going to say it, but it's a deeply respected identity. Is it being used as a smokescreen to soften public perception? Because it worked on me, or is it genuine spiritual redemption? Right? So I'll be clear, I'm not judging him. Who am I to judge him? I'm not. Where I can judge people, because I know for a fact that it's appropriation for clout chasing, then I'm very open about that. But here I'm not judging him. I'm not in his head, am I? And I can't. It's just simple human nature to question the intent when the contrast is so, oh gosh, it's so dramatic. I'm just wondering, I wondered, and I'll probably continue to wonder what was driving it. But if it is genuine and he has really found solace in Sikhi and he actually wants to, I don't know, walk a better, more grounded path, I was going to say to redeem himself, but I don't think I'm in a position to say that, because I'm not really interested in what has happened to his past, because I don't know the ins and outs of it. But maybe I could reword that, the path to safety. But if it's genuine, then yeah, best of luck. Sometimes when we find solace in a faith, when we're broken, sometimes it can save our life. If I was going to be really brutal, I'd say, oh, look, the proof's in the pudding. But I think that's a bit harsh. But spiritual safety isn't like a single photo opportunity, is it? And it's certainly not a phase. It has to be a lifelong commitment. So if it's a genuine transformation from the masked man, time will tell, I suppose, through his actions, his humility. And I did find him actually really humble, I'll be honest. There was no part of me that was screaming, turn this podcast off. I really do hope it's not a PR shield. And if it is, well, time will expose that too. Human intention it's rarely simple, is it? And something as sacred as the star, you can't use it as a temporary social shield. it's, and again, I'm speaking as a Sikh, but, you know, it's a permanent spiritual refuge. But those are my thoughts, and you know that I have these moments. And then I have to let it out. I don't even, you know what, human intention, it's never purely black or white. Oh, something's gone into review. Wow, you're an idiot, aren't you? Ah, you'll be hidden. And that's why I should never really look down, because idiots like him appear. Yeah, what was I saying? That we're, as human beings, our intention, it's never black or white. And there's grey in all of us. But if you've gone through something where you feel that, you know, there is a lot of public scrutiny, I was going to say shame, but I don't really think I should use that word. But then, yeah, it's understandable that you would want to hide. You would want to hide and more drastically shed your old identity, because it can become overwhelming. And the Indian paps, oh my God, they're awful. I don't think they have any form of code of conduct. They're in your face, literally. So yeah, maybe his choice of mask was a bit drastic, but if that was his way of keeping them at bay, then yeah, he did what he had to do. You know, I don't know whether the transition was some sort of intentional PR shield or some, I don't know, psychological defense mechanism, whatever it is. And if he's had a profound spiritual awakening now, maybe he wouldn't even be able to tell you where one ends and the other begins. But again, I'm not in his head, am I? But whatever he's done in terms of shielding, whether it was the harsh way or now the softer way, he has done it. And again, I'm not judging him. But yes, I do object to appropriation, but only time will tell. You know, because I think appropriation of a sacred identity, if you're going to use it as a smokescreen, I do object to that, because if we look at the moral framework of Sikhi, it is really strong, and it commands a lot of respect. Could be just the sheer weight of the star. Maybe it gave him a sense of peace. Maybe it is an awakening. Maybe it is a walk towards the light. Maybe it was some sort of epiphany. And maybe it was peace away from all that jamak damak, you know, that whole Bollywood. And that all that Bollywood crap, it's all noise, isn't it? And you know what they say? Not everything that glitters is gold. But anyway, good luck to him. And I hope he finds more peace and more solace in the faith, because our faith is all welcoming. ਐਵੇਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਰ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਹਰਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ. So that's my bit. That's all I wanted to say. Good night. have a think about it. But don't judge him. I don't think he should be judged. I mean, you can if you want, because some people are like that. They'll judge everything and everyone. It's a bit like I'm trying really hard not to judge Tommy Robinson. But I will have that conversation about Tommy Robinson and his tactical apology to the girl that he allowed to be trolled for 4 days just to point score. I will talk about that, but I have to do that during the day because I need to be quite focused for that. She was naive. And, okay, he apologised, possibly to redeem himself because it all went a little bit tits up, didn't it? And then I'll also be talking about that prick, Foxy, and his little trick with the envelope in the cartoon. Wow. I mean, wow. These people, it could have been to some degree that they were invited just to show the general public what absolute bellends they are. I've got to be really careful about what I say. And then, of course, we'll be talking about deform and destroy. Oh, Jesus wept. That'll be funny. Anyway, so sorry about the... Yeah, I got distracted. And that's how my mind is at the moment. It's full of lots of things. Bye.